Welcome back to the King of the Cosmos podcast. We have a special ASMR episode today on the King of the Cosmos podcast, where we are continuing our Bible study in Matthew chapter 2 as we continue to look at the glory of the birth of our Messiah, in which we will finish out the chapter today. So just sit there and rock quietly to sleep.
Welcome back to the King of the Cosmos podcast, everybody. I'm so glad that you got to click on the video. Okay, I guarantee it, we're going to get through chapter 2 today. We are going to get through chapter 2 today. So if you would, open up your Bibles. But before we get into the text this evening, I do have to remind you, I sent something out on Facebook and YouTube to remind everybody there is an episode happening tomorrow, Thursday, 6 p.m. Special episode. Don't want to miss it. Very, very important for the Christian to talk about. It's social justice. Why social justice is not biblical justice. And so what we're going to do is we're going to sit down and we're going to talk about it. We're going to look at some of the core tenets of social justice and biblical justice. So tomorrow, 6 p.m., you'll want to make sure you're logged on for that. And today, but we're still today, episode 19. Episode 19 of the King of the Cosmos podcast. We are in Matthew. And last time, we left off at verse 12. So we're picking up at verse 12. And we're picking up at verse 13. And verse 13 says this, okay? Now when they had departed, behold, an angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream and said, Rise, take the child and his mother and flee to Egypt and remain there until I tell you, for Herod is about to search for the child to destroy him. Okay, so remember, why is Herod wanting to destroy the child? Remember when I said that when political powers are threatened, people get caught in the crossfire? Well, he wants to kill the one threatening his power. We'll get into that a little bit later. But that's what's going on. He wants to kill this upcoming king because he's going to depose him. Little thing we're going to get into just here in a few minutes. Herod's not really the true king of Israel. Not by bloodline anyways. He's not a Jew. He's not a Jewish king at all. He was appointed by somebody else, but we'll get into that. So, even though Mary, Joseph, with baby Jesus right now, they're on the run, we have to remember this has all been planned. Every detail has been known by God, how it's all going to play out. This is the safest baby that's ever existed in the history of man. God knew all about this from eternity past. He knew every detail of what's going to happen. And because our God is sovereign and he works through providence, he's able to keep the baby safe. So nothing to worry about there. Verses 14 and 15, okay? And he rose and took the child and his mother by night and departed to Egypt and remained there, verse 15, until the death of Herod. Now, Herod the Great, he died in 4 BC. So it's shooting forward in time just to tell you how long they were there until he died. But then it's going to shoot backwards in time to continue the narrative of what's going on. And remain there until the death of Herod. This was to fulfill, there's our phrase, right? That's the one we keep talking about. This was to fulfill what the Lord had spoken by the prophet, out of Egypt I called my son. Okay, so we have another fulfillment here. We have another prophecy being quoted, another Old Testament prophet that is being quoted. And who is the one being quoted here? This is Hosea. This is Hosea. And I'm going to pull you up on my screen here, okay? Record. Okay, hold on. Okay, there we go. So, over here, Hosea chapter 11, verse 1. That's what he's quoting. That's what Matthew is quoting right now. He's quoting from Hosea. He says, in the Masoretic text, remember that, when Israel was a child, I loved him, and out of Egypt I called my son. Okay, but remember, Matthew is quoting the Septuagint. He's quoting the Greek translation of the Old Testament. And that one says, because Israel was an infant, I loved him, and out of Egypt I called back his children. Let's keep going. Just as I called them back, so they sued to depart from my face. They were sacrificing to the Baals and used to burn incense to the graven images. And I tied together the feet of Ephraim and took him upon my arm. Let's go back to the Masoretic. So we can see differences in the text, but not so much that we don't understand what's going on. Verse 2 in Hosea 11, it's verse 2. The more they were called, the more they went away. So what is going on? Why am I going so fast? First of all, Nathan, calm down. What is Hosea talking about in this context? When Israel was a child, I loved him, and out of Egypt I called my son. The more they were called, the more they went away. They kept sacrificing to the Baals and burning offerings to idols. Yet it was I who taught Ephraim to walk, and I took them up by their arms. They did not know that I healed them. So what's going on here? Now remember, I'll pull you back over here. Remember, there's in almost every prophecy about the Messiah in the Old Testament that gets fulfilled. Okay, there's an Old Testament fulfillment of that prophecy, and there is a New Testament fulfillment. Although in Hosea, this isn't really a prophecy, he's just speaking, but he's not directly speaking about the Messiah. Very important. What's he speaking about? Hosea is talking about Israel's history in his context, in his day. He's talking about Israel's history. Out of Egypt, God pulled Israel out of Egypt, and he tried to be faithful to them and love them. But what do they keep doing? They kept going into idolatry over and over and over again. And it was a terrible mess. But Matthew attributes this to Jesus. He attributes this passage to Jesus, but only the part where it says, out of Egypt, I called my son. Why? Because as you're going to see, there are some things in Jesus' life that directly mirror Israel's whole relationship with God. Although Jesus does it the right way and Israel did it the wrong way. Here's what you should have done. Jesus was faithful, unlike Israel. So you're going to see a lot of Jesus' life mirror kind of what happened in Israel almost. Thus the fulfillment of Israel and the fulfillment of law and all that stuff. So, going back to it, in verse 14 and 15, I wanted to read something. Verse 16, then Herod, when he saw that he had been tricked by the wise men, became furious, and he sent and killed all the male children in Bethlehem and in all that region who were 2 years old or younger, or older, under, according to the time that he had ascertained from the wise men. Okay, Herod is hopping mad because of what happened. But I wanted to read you something. Some background on Herod that I thought maybe you'd really, really appreciate. Here we go. Let's read a little bit on Herod. You'll like this, okay? This will really give you some good detail about Herod. In 40 BC, Mark Antony, together with Octavian, who later became Caesar Augustus, jointly appointed a ruler over the Jewish people, who himself was not Jewish, but had been ruthless, a ruthless chieftain known for his strength and cruelty. So, number one, the Jewish people wouldn't have liked that. For a long time, since Saul, they had what kind of king? A Jewish king from the line of David. And Herod wasn't it. That would have made them very, very upset. Antony and Octavian then appointed Herod to be king over the Jews. This is the man who engendered the slaughter of the innocents probably 35 years after his reign began. King Herod had magnificent administrative powers. which he used to appease the Jews who were hostile toward him because he was not a Jew. He undertook the building of the new temple, which exceeded the temple of Solomon in its grandeur and became known as one of the wonders of the ancient world. The size of the blocks used in the building of the temple was monumental, and extraordinary engineering skill was employed to construct that edifice. Additionally, Herod built his winter palace on the high peak of Masada. And if you know what happened in history with Masada, yeah, it was there. The palace had, among other niceties, a working sauna. Wow, a working sauna, which was a marvel itself. Herod enjoyed a widespread reputation for his administrative abilities. Why does that keep happening? And his building projects. His reputation as a builder, however, was far exceeded by his reputation for cruelty. He had 10 wives, 2 of whom he murdered. One of the 2 was supposedly his favorite wife. He murdered in cold blood 3 of his own children, as well as several other family members. He was so ruthless that in his last months, when he knew that his death was imminent, he issued a decree that on the day of his death, principal men of the entire Jewish nation were to be killed. He did it so that there would be widespread mourning. As it turned out, his henchmen didn't carry out his decree, but that he ordered it is a matter of historical record. We know that he ordered it in the first place. All this gives us a clue as to the character of the man who sought to kill Jesus. I thought that was very, very interesting and very helpful to really understand what kind of guy Herod was. He was not a good guy. He was a terrible guy. He was terrible. And he was just a polite on Judea and the Jewish people. Anyways, wanted to read that to you. So, verse 16, when Herod, he becomes fuming mad that the wise men didn't come back to him, that they tricked him. They didn't report where the Messiah was, this new king of Israel that everybody would come to worship. So he got angry. And what did he do? Well, killed a bunch of children, 2 and under. So remember when I said that when there's political strife, when there's somebody's political power being threatened on either side, innocent people get caught in the crosshairs. And that's what happened here. Herod was so greedy about his power, didn't want anyone to take it, that he's willing to kill children. Now, in our day and time, I mean, you can't imagine that. You can't imagine rulers and leaders just sending out to kill a bunch of children until you realize what's going on in our country today. 64 million babies slaughtered in the womb. As of last time I checked anyways, it's no longer 40 million. It's 64 million. But the amount of evil that is there is just so terrible. Now, okay, let's go back. Remember when I said that Jesus was kind of fulfilling a bunch of things that happened in Israel's history, but in a different way? Yeah. Who else? What other time in Jewish history was there where there were a bunch of kids killed to prevent something? Exodus chapter 4. Exodus chapter 4, verse 16. I will pull you up on my screen right here so you can see it. Exodus 4:16. Okay. Now look at this. Oh, is it Exodus 4:16? I'm sorry, it's 1:16. Get it together, Nathan. Get it together. Okay. So, let's go back a few verses, okay? So they ruthlessly made the people of Israel work as slaves and made their lives bitter with hard service in mortar and brick and in all the kinds of work in the field in all their work. They ruthlessly made them work as slaves. Verse 15. Then the king of Egypt said to the Hebrew midwives, one of whom was named Shiphrah, and the other Puah, when you serve as midwife to the Hebrew women and see them on the birth stool, if it is a son, you shall kill him, but if it is a daughter, she shall live. Okay, why did you do that? Well, they were scared of the Jewish people rising up, which eventually, of course, they did with God's help. But he was scared, and all of the Egyptians were scared of the Jewish people rising up and causing a revolt. So, how do you ensure that that's not going to happen? By killing the strongest members, little boys. Don't even let them be born. And if they are born, kill them right then. That's heavily mirrored here a little bit. It's slaughtering of innocents in order to prevent this outcome. But as we know, they missed one. Moses. Moses was spared. And so Jesus is spared. So going back to verse 17 now. Then was fulfilled what was spoken by the prophet Jeremiah. There's our phrase again. Okay? And here he quotes, a voice was heard in Ramah, weeping a loud lamentation. Rachel weeping for her children. She refused to be comforted because they are no more. That's Jeremiah chapter 31, verse 15. Okay? We won't go there. It's okay. But you do need to know that Matthew is giving all these scriptures back to back for a reason. He's essentially beating the Jewish reader over the head with them, trying to say, hey, here's this text. All of this is to fulfill that Jesus is that king. He's that Messiah. He's that promised one. And how in here, in Jeremiah 31, verse 15, it says, Rachel is weeping for her children. What's that mean? Okay, remember, Rachel was Jacob's favorite wife. She was Jacob's favorite wife. And so the children of Israel were considered to be Rachel's children. Not completely, but that's who they were considered to be. All of them came from Rachel. That's just where they aimed it at. And these are Rachel's children. And when all of them die or get sent to exile or slaughtered, well, Rachel, causing lamentation, she's weeping for her children. And that's what's going on here as well. So, I know we're going kind of fast, but I really want to get to chapter 3. And we are going to accomplish just that, okay? So, verses 19 and 20, okay? This is around 4 BC now, around there. And we know that because it says in verse 19, but when Herod died, remember when I said Herod died. Herod died in 4 BC. So, when Herod died, behold, an angel of the Lord appeared in a dream to Joseph in Egypt, saying, rise, take the child and his mother, and go to the land of Israel, for those who sought the child's life are dead. Okay. Another fascinating one. Here's another fascinating one. Again, mirroring stuff in the Old Testament. I'm going to bring you back on my screen again, okay? Oh, come on. There we go. It's still in Exodus this time, but it's Exodus chapter 4, verse 19, okay? And the Lord said to Moses in Midian, after Moses had left because he killed the taskmaster, and he was out of there. He booked it because the Pharaoh was going to kill him. And the Lord said to Moses in Midian, go back to Egypt, for all the men who were seeking your life are dead. Okay. And in here, an angel of the Lord is saying, okay, go back, rise, take the child and his mother, go back to the land of Israel, which we learn later in Revelation as spiritual Egypt. For those who sought the child's life are dead. Huh. It's just a little tie-in, but it's still interesting nonetheless. You see this all over, really the beginning of Matthew. It kind of dies off later on, but really in the beginning of Matthew is where you see this kind of stuff. Verse 22, but when he heard that Archelaus was reigning over Judea in the place of his father Herod, he was afraid to go there, and being warned in a dream, he withdrew to the district of Galilee, okay? So Herod died, his son Archelaus, okay, he started to reign, but Archelaus didn't reign over Judea in Judea. He was actually in Rome at the time. He did it from Rome. So he was ruling a land, but from afar. Verse 23. Okay, this is important. It's important because it's caused a lot of questions. And a lot of good questions at that. That's okay. They're good questions. Verse 23, and he went and lived in a city called Nazareth, so that what was spoken by the prophets might be fulfilled, that he would be called a Nazarene. Okay, so the question has been asked. Our theme is there. Fulfilling prophecy. This prophet says this. Where's this one? What is this one about? What prophet is he quoting? Where in the Old Testament? Well, long story short, you won't find it. You won't find it in the Old Testament. It's not a specific verse that he's quoting from, okay? And there's been many, ideas about what Matthew could be referring to when he says that so that what was spoken by the prophet might be fulfilled, what? That he would be called a Nazarene, because he's going to Nazareth to live there. How does that connect at all? So what is it, okay? There's several ideas. I just want to go over two with you. I'm not going to overload you, but I do want to go over two. The first idea is that, I'll pull you up on my screen, yet again, pull you up on my screen. So the first idea is that he's quoting Isaiah 11:1, okay? He's at least referring to Isaiah chapter 11, verse 1. And how does he do that? There shall come forth a shoot from the stump of Jesse, and a branch from his roots shall bear fruit. This is about Jesus, okay? And how do we know this? Context, verse 2. And the Spirit of the Lord shall rest upon him, the Spirit of wisdom and understanding, the Spirit of counsel and might, the Spirit of knowledge and the fear of the Lord. And his delight shall be in the fear of the Lord. Oh, that provokes some questions right there, for a lot of people. It shouldn't, but it does. Anyways, you can see that this is talking about the Messiah, okay? Our focus is on this word right here, branch. And many have speculated that, well, since this is talking about the Messiah, he's making a play off of words here, okay? The word for branch here in Hebrew is netzar, okay? It's netzer. So, it means sprout or offshoot, but what the translation is not important. It's what it is in Hebrew, okay? And so when you have, hold on, there we go. So when Matthew says what he says, that he's going to be a Nazarene, people think that he's making a play off of a messianic prophecy in Isaiah 11:1, using the word branch, which is netzer. Here's the problem. That's a Hebrew word. Not necessarily a problem. Of course, it's possible. He is talking to Jewish people who know both Hebrew and Greek. But remember, everything he's quoted so far has been from the Septuagint, the Greek translation of the Old Testament. So it would be inconsistent for him to do it, but it doesn't matter. It could still be possible. It could still be possible. The other explanation is this. Notice what is actually said in the verse, okay? Verse 23, and he went and lived in a city called Nazareth, so that what was spoken by the prophets, plural, might be fulfilled, that he would be called a Nazarene. Okay, so he says prophets. He doesn't say one prophet and then show the verse there, show the quotation. No, it's prophets, plural. What could be going on is he's giving a summation of what the prophets expected from the Messiah. And what was expected from the Messiah? That, well, since he's coming from Nazareth, in their day and time, what is Nazareth known as? It's a nothing place. It's a nothing place. In fact, John chapter 1, verse 46, I believe his name was Nathan, or Nathaniel. He said, can anything good come out of Nazareth? So you can see this cultural disdain for this place called Nazareth. And the Messiah's origin in the Old Testament, what did he say his origins would be? They would be humble, they would be lowly, and they would be rejected by society. A lot like Nazareth. A lot like Nazareth. But that's all we're going to go into for verse 23. I could keep going. There's a lot of theories out there. But notice how just protected. I know we went through it fast, but notice how protected Jesus was. I want you to notice with great care that the care that the Father watched over the Son with. He was with him. He protected him. He fulfilled scriptures on his behalf. He watched over him. And the whole point is, at least the way I understand it, is that, look, God is with us too. He was with him for a specific purpose because he's the Messiah. But look, God is with us as well. He goes with us. He delivers us from physical sometimes and spiritual troubles. Although sometimes he lets us go through those things in order to develop character and help us to look towards him. But when we look at God's protection, his divine protection of Jesus going through the birth narrative, it should encourage us that, wow, that same God is protecting me. That should do something for you. So, kind of a short episode today. Sorry about that. But that's the rest of chapter 2. Next time, finally, we get into chapter 3. We will get into chapter 3 of the book of Matthew when John the Baptist comes. John the Baptist comes, he prepares the way for the Messiah, for the Lord, for Yahweh. That's important. And we'll get into that, of course. So, in the meantime, I hope that you have a good rest of the week. I hope that you will continue your walk in the Lord and be serious about it and love him, follow him, know how much he has gone through to secure your salvation, and you can take comfort in that. Remember that tomorrow is a special episode. Tomorrow, Thursday, 6 p.m. is a special episode where we are going to be looking at a piece of a book called Why Social Justice is Not Biblical Justice. A very, very important topic. And Christian, you want to be a part of that discussion. You want to be a part of that. You want to learn it because plenty of Christians have questions about it. I'll get into it tomorrow. You'll see tomorrow. You'll just have to check in tomorrow. But in the meantime, God bless you. I love you all. Please like and share the video. Like and share the video. And tomorrow as well, like and share that video because I don't know how long that one's going to stay up. And just continue to pray for our brothers and sisters who need our encouragement, need our help, need healing from God. You know all the stuff that's going on here. And if you don't, pray for the church at Otisville. And I will see you later, okay? Take care, all right?